my name is Yolanda Inguanzo, and I work for USDA Plant Protection and Quarantine, and I'm a pest survey specialist, which means that I work with the states and other local agencies to work on pest surveys for pests that are not known to occur in Washington and could be a threat to agriculture and natural resources. The program that I work with is called CAPS, and CAPS stands for Cooperative Agriculture Pest Survey. And it's kind of a nationwide network, all the states working together to provide funding for the states to do surveys, and to also provide like a framework for the surveys, a lot of information about how to survey for the pests, what's the most effective way to detect a pest. There's a lot of information on the CAPS website that anybody can look at, and I really encourage you to look at it because it's really great information, lots of pictures of potential pests that could be a threat to agriculture and natural resources. And this is the URL here for that website. Again, CAPS is kind of a collaboration between agencies, and it's very structured because that way the funding doesn't get wasted. The funding has to be used in a very structured way, using only scientifically sound pest diagnostics and survey methods. It requires a timely reporting of the pest results so that it's those survey results are available to everyone to look at, to see where did survey occur, where was this pest found. In order for a pest to be eligible to be surveyed for with these funds, there's a requirement that the pest must have a high impact. It must be exotic and not already established in the U.S. There must be a proven and reliable pest detection method, and that is the method that must be used with this funding. And if pests have already been found in the U.S., already introduced and federally deregulated, they are removed from this list. Here's a picture of that CAPS website. And again, I really encourage you to look at it because there's a lot of great information here that you might find interesting. And there's also another associated website called Pest Tracker that also has a lot of great information and maps and information for kids that are doing book reports or anything like that. Here's a picture of the Pest Tracker website. So survey methods that are part of the CAPS program can include traps and lures. There are some insects that have good traps and lures that are available to survey for them. Some pests require a visual survey because there's no good trap and lure. Some pests require sample collection, like soil samples or specimen collections. And if the correct survey method, the CAPS approved survey method, is used in the CAPS program, it allows states to report negative data. In other words, they can report, we looked for this pest and we didn't find it. And that can be really useful if a state wants to certify exports to a foreign country, for example, and the foreign country says, we require that you certify that X pest doesn't occur in your state, then they can use this data to certify exports, which can be really useful. Here's an example of a survey method for emerald ash borer. And the survey methods that the CAPS program comes up with is a result of a lot of research that's done. And they use the pest biology to come up with the best configuration for a trap. For example, this one for emerald ash borer. Emerald ash borer is looking for a dark, this is part of its behavior, it's looking for a dark vertical surface. So this trap kind of takes advantage of that pest biology. Here's another trap for a CAPS pest called nun moth. And because of the research that's funded through CAPS, it's determined that this is the best way to catch that moth, using a gypsy moth trap, but leaving the ends open because nun moth is a little bit bigger, allows for a more effective trap for nun moth. Here's another trap for a different pest. Again, using the pest biology, the CAPS program we'll let the surveyors know what's the best way to place the trap in the tree, and the timing of the trapping, and a lot of other details that can be used for an effective pest survey. This is another example of a spongy moth trap that uses the fact that the spongy moth kind of sits on the trunk of the tree. So the survey method is to put the trap there on the trunk of the tree where the female moth would normally be. This is another trap for a Siberian silk moth that, again, the research done by the CAPS program has determined this is, a real effective trap that would be effective in detecting this pest. And here's another trap for rosy gypsy moth. This is a trap for a wood boring insect that, again, takes advantage of the pest behavior to look for a vertical dark surface like a tree trunk and then the lure hanging from the side of it kind of draws in the insect. Some pests require actual soil sampling in order to detect them. For example, this is a survey for nematode pests that was done in Alaska a few years ago. And when we do CAPS surveys, in order to capitalize on the best way to detect the pest, we try to use a pathway approach to survey. So we look at the pest biology. What is the pathway? Where would that pest be found? And some pests, the pathway would be shipping containers. For example, this is an example of some spongy moth egg masses on a shipping container. And some pests are found on solid wood packing material. So inspecting solid wood packing material might be a good way to detect them. Here's an example of pests that were found in a wood pallet. And the fact that so many wood pallets are coming into our ports every day, coming in on shipping containers. This is a picture of the port. I believe it's the port of Tacoma or Seattle, and kind of gives you an idea. Each of those little things right here on the tarmac are shipping containers, gives you an idea of just how many wood pallets are coming in through our ports with the potential of carrying and also exotic wood-borne beetles. Here's a list of some specific examples of wood-boring insects that have the potential of coming in on the pathway of wood packing material, like wood pallets and crates. There's some beetles, some wood-boring moths, weevils, bark beetles, wood wasps. Here's an example of something that many of the countries of the world have come together and agreed on a protocol to prevent wood-boring insects from being spread on wood pallets, and that is a treatment for the wood pallets. And this stamp indicates that the wood pallet was treated and should be free of pests, but the potential exists for those stamps to be counterfeited. So just because these treaties have been put in place doesn't mean that we are free of the risk of wood-boring insects coming in on wood pallets. And that kind of shows the necessity for a second line of defense of having a good, strong survey program in our state to detect these pests if they make it through the borders. Here's a study that was done showing the risk of introduction of infested solid wood packing material, and you can see that our area has a pretty big risk and number of introductions. So I'm going to show a few examples and pictures of some wood-boring insect pests that can spread on wood packing material. The one on the left here is emerald ash borer, and this insect has been detected in Portland. So our state is at great risk of finding it. In fact, it may already be here. It's good for everyone to be on the lookout for it. On the right here is Asian longhorn beetle. Another pathway is stone and tile, and pests that have been intersected on stone and tile are snails and also the spotted lanternfly. Here's an example of an exotic snail that has the potential of being introduced into Washington. And here on the left is a picture of a Sornuella species. And one thing I wanted to point out, what this picture kind of shows is even if you're not really sure what a snail is, if you see a snail, it may be hard to identify and know for sure that it's an exotic or a native. But if you see snails exhibiting this kind of massing behavior or anything that looks unusual, like if you're in a place where you never noticed snails before, but suddenly you're seeing a lot of them, or you're seeing them exhibit this kind of massing behavior, that would be something that you should take a picture of and report it to either WISC or the Department of Agriculture, because this massing behavior might be an indication that it's an exotic species. Here's another example of an exotic species, spotted lanternfly. It's immature stages. And the adult, another picture of the adult with its wings closed. And this is the host for spotted lanternfly, the Lycorma delicatula. Here's an up close picture of ailanthus. This is an up close picture of the ailanthus. And you can see it's got a compound leaf, and at the base of the leaflets are these tooth kind of teeth. This is a showing of where ailanthus occurs in the US, and there's a lot of ailanthus in the central and eastern part of our state. I don't see a lot of it on the west side. Here's a spotted lanternfly egg mass. It kind of looks like a gypsy moth egg mass a little bit. It looks almost kind of like chewing gum. But if you see anything like this, it would be great to take a picture of it and report it. Here are the immature stages of the spotted lanternfly. The first instars, when they first emerge from the egg, are black and white, and then they gradually take on that reddish color. Here's the adult. Let me just see if there's anything that I'm gonna just hurry through some of these. Here's another pathway. Here's a picture of a snail on a container. This is a good picture to show that they are very cryptic and sometimes hard to detect. There's another snail that was found at the Port of Vancouver, and this is one of the mitigation that the port can use to treat cargo that's infested with snails. In 2005, there was a snail detected at the Port of Tacoma, and one way that it really grabbed the attention of the Department of Agriculture was this massing. Like I said before, this would be an unusual behavior for native snails. So if you see anything like this, it's definitely something to take a picture of and report it. I'm going to skip through a lot of these pictures. This is a good chart that shows the best times to look for snails. Really, the winter, fall, and spring are the best times. The summers, they're going to be kind of dormant and they're not going to be very observable. I want to point this out, that snails are potential carriers of harmful pathogens. So wear gloves and wash hands when you handle them, if you are going to handle them. But it might be better to just take a picture and not handle them. I want to point out this don'tmovefirewood.org website. I encourage everybody to look at it. It has a lot of great information, great examples of pests that can be spread on firewood. And I have some slides of them here. And the Washington Invasive Species Council website. These are all the priority pests of the WISC. Asian longhorn beetle, And there's some slides at the very end that I really wanted to, okay, to report an invasive species, the WISC website has this, has a page where you can report anything that you find. It would be good to collect as much information as you can. If it's a private property, collect the property owner's name if possible. Take digital images and submit the report the same day. When you're photographing plant pests, it's good to put your camera or your phone as close as possible to the pest, but without causing it to fly away or to, flush away. Zoom in on the insect and include the host plant that it's on, or take another picture of the host plant with identifying detail of the plant. I find that on my phone, when I'm taking a picture of an insect, if I tap on the screen, it causes the insect to come into better focus. Take several pictures if you can, and that way you can use the clearest image, and you can crop it to get a close-up of the details. Include something to give a scale, like a paper, like a pencil or a ruler. And it's important to get as accurate location information as you can. If you can get the latitude, longitude, that's ideal. If you can get the address, that would be great. And it's really important not to submit images you found on the internet. Some people find an insect and then they'll look online and find something that looks like what they saw and submit that. But that really doesn't help at all. It's better to just only submit the images that you took yourself with your own camera. If you have an insect, you can put it in a jar and put it in the freezer briefly to kind of subdue it so you can get a better picture of it. For snails and slugs, put it in a container or a jug and make sure that you wear gloves. And that's my email. If anyone has any questions, or if you want to report a pest, or if you want to survey a particular property and would like me to come with you, I'd be really happy to do that. And if you have any questions, let me know.